together. We started a PhD together, and it's been a really privilege for me to come and speak about this design thinking. Well, design is something which I was I was also a graduate of Lady Irwin College from Tech Fabric and Apparel Science, and then I did my masters from NIF Delhi. So I worked in industry for around 3 years, and then I understood that how design works. And I've been teaching in NIF from past 19 years now. So and see, design is something which is everyday work, which we talk about. Whatever you do, whatever you have in your hand, is all design. So we'll discuss about it through a presentation, and I would like everyone to be participative so that it becomes easier for me to also understand that whether you are able to grasp what I'm trying to say. And if you have any questions, you're most welcome to ask. So without any delay, shall I start sharing my presentation, Nidhi?
Yes, ma'am,
Yes.
Sure.
please.
Thank you. Just a moment. Okay. Is it visible on the full screen mode?
Yes, yes, it
Sure.
is.
Yeah, it's visible.
So when we talk about design thinking, well, design process, design thinking, creative thinking skills, they all are, they're the same thing. They overlap with each other. And it's a huge umbrella under which all these topics come under, and we cover them up in various formats. So just So, what is design? The first thing we tell our students is what is design? Design is a solution to a problem for a specific audience or a client. So, whenever we talk about problem solving, so if you see here, I don't know whether this is visible or not. So, problem, if there is a problem, you think over it and you come up with a solution, it is called as design thinking. Design is a solution to a problem. Design is something, it's never like an artistic thing. We tell our students very clearly whenever we teach design subjects is that design is not what you want. Design is what your client wants. Design is something you're doing it for a person, for a need of a person. And it is according to the client or the audience that you create your solution. It is not what, for example, if you say, I like blue color. That's the reason why I have made my bag as blue. But that may not sell into the market because the client to whom you're selling, the color may be a white, which they prefer. So you have to understand your client very well before you start designing anything. That's the first step, that you understand your target audience, you understand your client, and that's how your design thinking, any problem, understanding your problem and your client starts from design thinking. So design thinking actually has five major stages. The first is empathize, the second is design define, the third is ideate, fourth is prototype, and the last one is the testing. So this is something which are overlapping with each other. As you can see, you can empathize and you can define, and then they are like overlapping. At times, your prototype is sometimes wrong. You have to come back to the ideation. So that's how these arrows are being marked. Further in my slides, you will be able to see what we're discussing about each step. And why do we say that you have to go back at times and you have to see things little bit again and again? You'll be able to understand it when we talk about the processes, and you will realize that, oh, even I have done this. Oh, I was part of this. I was part of this process as well for a certain product in the market. So it is not, it is something which you may have gone through every process except maybe ideating and defining and empathizing. That is something which is being done by the designers mostly. But you will realize that at times in prototyping and testing phase, you have always been part of it. So, what do we mean by empathize? As empathize is a word which is being used universal in terms of understanding things. We empathize with the client, empathize with the environment, empathize with the situation, anything, by observing, by seeing how people are behaving. And engaging ourselves, we do a lot of interviews, we do a lot of surveys, we do take up a lot of feedbacks, and we interact with the users. So for design, users, as I said, client or the audience is the major person, is the major category of people whom you are supposed to learn about. So they call as users. In our word, we use them as users. And then we have immerse. Put yourself in user's shoes. See whether the user will be able to empathize. You have to empathize with the user's idea and try to see whether what was the situation, why did the user reacted in that manner, and why. For example, if you're working for a let me give you an example, very simple example. A kid is going, we're planning to design a uniform for a kid going to a school. And when you think about it, you have to understand a kid of 2, or maybe let's say it's a kid of 3 years old, so going to a nursery school, who is the person who will be the user for you? Can anybody answer to my question? Who will be the user for that uniform designing? Whom will you question? Anyone?
Maybe the clients and the customer.
Yeah, the client and the customer, majorly the parents. So they become the users for us. So for kids category, it's actually the parents who become the users for us, because they are the people who will be the best person to judge whether the kid was comfortable with using that, or whether the kid was not comfortable using the product which has been done, and will be able to tell you more problems, that these are the problems due to which you will be able to figure out, okay, this is the major problem which we have to sort it out. You'll get problems every day. Even if the place where you're sitting right now, if you see across at your place in your homes, even if you're sitting there and you look across, you'll find hundreds of problems which you can put on piece of paper, and maybe one solution which can sort maximum number of your problems. So you have to immerse yourself into the user's shoe and try to understand where is the requirement, and where do I need to nail it, so that I can come up with the best solution which can provide the best I think the best solution to the user as well. So this is how we empathize. So not only by viewing them, we also view them, we do a lot of interviews, we also try to put ourselves, we do role plays also at times, so that we understand that this is how a person is going to feel, and that's the reason why I have to do this. So a designer actually has a design has to be perfect as a solution to a need. So that is why, and the solution can only come once you understand what is the problem. So that's how we do empathize. And empathize has can be divided into these four factors. So you have a user, maybe say what is the problem. So your user must have said certain words. So you when we do exercises, we always make sure that even if I would have been there offline, I would have given you certain, maybe some exercise of sitting together, and I say whatever is coming to your mind, just write it down by seeing a product. Or maybe if two people are talking together, listen to what the other person is saying, and you start quoting those down. So you put your keywords down and you understand that what that person is trying to say. Not everything is important, but key points, maybe colors, your textures, your forms, your problems, everything will come from these words. So these words are very important for us, what they say. Then what they think, what might your user be thinking. So at points we have to go at an emotional way and see what emotions are attached to that. So what is the feeling which is coming to the user by using the problem which is there. For example, if I talk about as I said about the kids wearing the school uniform. So I'm designing a school uniform for a kid of 3 years old, and I'm now questioning the parents about what exactly do you feel that the design should have and the elements should be there in the uniform so that the kid is comfortable. So they'll start saying, my kid always clean the floor every time. They dirty their dress so easily. And cleaning those dresses is a big problem for us. The problem is not for the kid. The problem is for the person who is going to also maintain that uniform. So that is something which you also have to keep in mind, that you are designing it for a kid, but it has to be maintained by a parent. So you have to understand the user's thinking, that what exactly the user is thinking. And also, at times the parents will start saying, see, I have two kids. Now I am I'm a single person earning in the family. The dress, uniform, everything, every time my kids grows up, I have to buy a new uniform. That uniform I have to buy twice or thrice, so I have to spend so much of money. They'll start talking about these terms as well. So they are not very explicit, but they will be definitely talking and giving you some hints that this is what is also making them aware that money is also important. So certain things comes with their beliefs. So what does this tell you about his or her beliefs as well? At times they have certain beliefs. We don't want people to wear, I don't want kids to wear red color, it makes them more angry. So those words will also start coming up. We have to all maintain that in our empathize format. Then feelings, the emotions might subject be feeling. So my kid goes to school, I want it to be very soft. My kid has skin allergy, and then the kid keeps having those problems. So all those kinds of emotions which you can add. And what actions and behaviors you have to notice, all that when you're observing a user, you have to not only see what they're trying to say, but observe them also, and the kid as well, because now observation can be done with the kids as well. So you can understand the behaviors, what kids do and what do they not do, so that you can actually uh, put this all together and then figure out what is the problem. So empathy is the first thing which requires a lot of time and definitely has to be nailed down so that you come to your problem. So this was the first thing. And once you've done your empathize, the first thing comes to you, the first thing we note down is the define the problem. So there may be hundreds of problems which have come up, which you have gone through your empathy mode, but you have to now put only a particular problem which you can solve. Not everything can be solved. One has to understand this. That, for example, you're making a bag. A women's wear bag has to be launched in a market. You can't make a women's wear bag. Somebody comes and tells us, I want to make a women's wear bag. Fine, you can make a women's wear bag. But then for whom? For which category of people are you talking about? Which age group? What in even in the age group, if I talk about 18 to 22, what most of the students would be right now. So in that scenario also, are they college going? Are they people who are working? If they're college going, are there people from the fashion industry? Are the people from non-fashion industry? If that is also the thing, are the people who are in the professional courses? Are the people who are there in the very theoretical courses? So everything will change. Your woman's bag will then keep coming up, that designs keeps changing. So once the problem is very clear, I am designing a women's wear bag for an age group of 18 to 22 for a girl going to a regular college. I'm very clear, and having majorly like a theoretical classes. So then I know that they need to keep one notebook, they need to keep one purse, maybe wallet, a small wallet. They may need to carry their sanitizers and all those tissues and everything, and they need to carry a small pen, a pouch, maybe having all those essential things for the classes. My completely things change when I say about somebody coming to NEFT. Now people who are coming to NEFT, the students, so we start doing it with the people who are very close to you. When you start looking at the people of your own age group, you will try to understand, okay, this is what it is. So when we say for a age for so when we tell I mean that when we work it out on a solution, so problem, so we tell them, look around yourself and look at your classmates. So for example, textile students coming to NIFT have to carry their art books. They have to carry their own color pencils and watercolors and whatnot stationery. They have to carry a lot of. They have to carry their wallet, of course. They have to carry sometimes scissors, their notebooks, and everything. So they have a huge stationery thing which has to be carried. So it can't be a small purse, it can't be a bag which is very small. It has to be a bigger bag. It needs to have a multiple pockets. It needs to have things which are easily accessible to them. They're not figuring out where the wallet has been kept. So the problem has to be very, very defined. It has to be that this is what I want to do and this is the solution for it. Because if your problem is wrong and you have not defined it properly, your whole process of making the client understand what you have done goes completely wrong. So the problem has to be perfectly defined, and it has to be done only in one line. This is what it is. So the first thing is, well, how do you define your problem? So what does that statement says? The statement should be able to tell you what are you trying to change or invent. What are Does it satisfy a need or a want? Examine prior solutions. You have to do that before you come to your problem statement and prove there is a problem. Is it worth solving? Identify criteria and constraints. That's very important. For example, in our college, when students work with the industry, and they tell them to develop a print collection. A print collection for what? So then the student comes and says the brief given was to develop a print collection. Then we start asking, print collection for what? Print collection by which technique? Print collection for which category of client? Print collection for which kind of techniques to be used? Matlab, is it a screen print? Is it a digital print? Is it a rotary print? So you have to tell everything. Every constraint has to be mentioned when your problem is stated. So that's what I said, 18 to 20 years of an age group, girl going to a college, women's wear bag has to be made. So need is for a bag. There is a, you have definitely given a 18 to 22 years of an age gap, and you have also specified that's the constraint, and you have also constraint is that the kid is going to a college. So that's how everything is very well mentioned, and then your problem is properly stated. So when we're at times, there are very different ways of doing problem definition. So when you do it, what is the key issue you are trying to address and why is it important? That is also very important for us to know. Making every day we have a cup of tea every day since our when we were born by the age of 2, let's say, when we stopped using bottles. So till now we are using mugs and glasses, right? So you would have realized when you were of age, let's say 3 years old, your mother must have given you some very interesting mugs. Okay, see, this is such a colorful mug, A, B, C, D is written on it, or maybe some kind of interesting graphics on top of it, which inspired you to have milk from that mug. Then when you grew up a little bit, maybe like a age group of, let's say, a 6 or 7, so something comes starts coming up, like cartoon starts coming up in your mind. So Barbie dolls and Spider-Man and things like that comes to your in your area. So you have mugs with Barbie dolls, you have Peppa Pigs or something like that. Then when you grew up at the age of 10 to 12, now you don't want to drink milk in those mugs because that's like outdated and small kids have it. So then you are perfectly changed, and now you are going towards your teenage group. So your mug changed, your color preferences changed, your material changed. Since you come to your teenage, you start preferring something like an adult thing. So you have a thicker edged and thicker handle mugs, bigger mugs, maybe photographic mugs or something like that. And by the age you reach college, then you want something you can put your milk or your tea into it, close it, and on the way run and have it, whatever milk or juice or whatever is being given to you. When you reach your office stage, the first office when you join, you are a new joinee, and again you are running, so your preference of having a steel mug or something comes into picture. When you grow up by the age of 30, 35, and you've reached a certain age group, you prefer to have a mug, which is very interesting. So that's how you will realize that every time your preference for a mug has been changing, and that's the reason why the designs keeps coming into the industry. Your need for mugs never die. It's the basic of the product which every day every person has been using. And you will realize that there is no end to designs of mugs which you get in the market. That's how you have to also address why is it important, why that problem is important. That means you're designing it something new, something matlab, it a certain market or a target group. You have to be very clear about it. Who is it a problem for? That's very important. As I said, age and the client has to be very well defined. What social or cultural factors shape this problem? So this comes up later when we talk about it, because when we talk about this, we always say you also have to look at whether it is being done for Indian market, you're doing client, you're catering to an international market. So all that also comes into picture. What evidence do you have that is worth the investment? Why do you think a person should invest into it? Because we are a designer, and the first thing the owners ask us when we design anything, they ask us, do you think we should invest into it and our money will be given back? So we always tell them, see, design is something which is a kind of a instinct and also trend which predicts, and we make it. But is it going to run in the market? Well, it's always a risk factor which is always attached to it. But You have to prove, and you have to tell them, you have to sell your design. That's most important, and that's how design thinking should be, that in the end I have to satisfy a user. Can you think of this problem in a different way? Can you reframe it? Do you think this means, if we tell them that, see, the problem can be looked at in different manner, you should look at your problem from all the sides and make it like a complete boundary, that you should not go wrong. Even if people start asking you hundreds of questions, you should be able to answer why was this a problem and why have you worked on it so much and come up with a solution for it. So that's the reason why your problem should be very, very clear. So why, when, how, what, where, who has to be answered once you start doing that. In this process, well, when we are doing empathize also, we also start doing a lot of things. We do a lot of words plus visuals, so it's a dual encoding. Because as you say, we all know it, after if 3 days you will remember only 65% of it. That's the problem of our brains. Once you go ahead, but when you have a combination of both words and visuals, it always stays in your mind. So what we tell, whatever you have been hearing, start collecting visuals, start writing, start collecting visuals. That helps you to make your complete understanding about the topic. So design thinking always done in two ways: words and visuals. So dual encoding is important for a design thinking. Once you have stated your problem very well, then starts your ideation process. This is the most difficult way of the difficult step of your design thinking. So here, you have one has to go out of the box thinking. Matlab, everything is available to you, so you have to really research before you start ideating. You have to research. If I'm talking about a mug, what all mugs, how many mugs, what designs, what material, what concepts, everything you have to have in your hands before you start ideating anything. Even when you want to buy a, maybe a t-shirt from Myntra, I think everybody do a little bit of research. They go back to, they look at Amazon, then they go on to maybe some other websites, Nika and everything, before they come down to finally I want this t-shirt. So similarly, for making, before you start ideating, one has to be complete focus of what has been done to date, and then you start your diversity of ideas. So, and from this vast repository of ideas, one can build up prototypes to test with the users. How do we ideate? We harness the collective perspectives. So we look at various perspectives, and we actually look at various formats. I think somebody might be wrong.
Uh, Dear students, please switch your mic 20508030. Yes, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. So we collectively look at various perspectives, and we then, from every perspective, we start designing. So we start ideating from every perspective. So I'll show you in the meanwhile how do we do that. Step beyond obvious solutions and drive innovation. So at times there are solutions which are already there, and we're looking at some new materials, and we want to do some innovations. That, for example, let's say, you must have all heard. We were using steel spoons very much, then came plastic spoons, then came, because of sustainability, we started using those bamboo spoons, and now we have edible spoons. So though it is very small in area, but they are very important. So what we're trying to say is, innovations, there are already solutions. Spoon is required to eat something, so solution is already there, but we are now coming up with an innovation of something which can be eaten also. The spoon can be eaten. So that's how we start ideating that ways as well. Uncover unexpected areas of exploration. At times many people have not explored certain areas. Well, this has, I would say, ratherly a very small, so this is majorly being done in the textile technology, where people have not even thought about that this may happen. We recently had a talk by professor who came from California University, and they were talking about that they're working on sensor fabrics which are being explored for people who are handicapped, so that they will be able to give you a better, matlab, instead of they saying that what they want and what they're feeling, the sensors can give the ideas to the scientist of what exactly they're feeling at that point of time, by using a certain kind of a instrument for their bodies and for making their work easy. So that is some, so these are something which are very unexplored areas where people don't even, especially for the disabled people, the areas are very less explored as compared to the normal situations in design as well. Create fluency, volume and flexibility in your innovation options. So you can have volumes, means you can have various kinds of different options where you can show that this is how it can be done. There could be various flexibility in your designs as well. You can say, if you don't want this, we can add this. So it always happens with us when the buyer comes to a stall and has liked a certain design and he said, this is what I like, but then he'll say, sorry, but I can't pay you that much. So then suddenly you will change your design and you'll say, okay, fine, let's have, I'll give you the same design, but let's change the material completely. And this will fit in your budget. So that's how flexibility sometimes leads to new ideas as well. That you may remove the print and you may add a little bit of maybe just computer embroidery on top of it. So that kind of flexibility also generates new ideas sometimes. So, so you have to research on, first of all, you've defined your problem. You have also justified that your problem is completely justifiable, and then you go ahead to generate your concepts. Otherwise, go back and look at your problem. Go back and empathize again. Go back and see why you've gone wrong. So every stage has to be well defined before you come to your generation of concepts. Because once you're there, you've started generating your concepts, it is very heartbroken thing that you've already done so much of exercise and everything goes like a flop. So you have to be very clear of this process when you come down to generation of concepts. So brainstorm many possible solutions, select a couple of ideas. Most difficult part of the design process, hard to come up with several ideas that meet the criteria. So you have certain constraints, you have criterias. First of all, start with something, with whatever comes to your mind, and then we start putting it down and we start rejecting ideas. No, look at the constraint, this doesn't work, move out. This doesn't work, move out. This doesn't work. And then we finally come to a certain solution which is fit on all the criterias. So that's how it works, and we practically do it. So for this, I would say creativity is intelligence having fun. Means creativity for me is something when you go out of the box. You don't see what usually is happening. You just try to involve things which you don't even want, and that's what even industry is looking forward to. The industry also looks at something having a lot of fun. At times they'll say, oh my god, what art piece. But we are not making an art piece, we are making something for a client. So we have to then come down to certain things that it becomes usable by the client. So that's what it is supposed to be. And it's also fun. It's a very fun activity which we always do, and this is said by Albert Einstein. So creative process requires a lot of research. We have vision ideas, we have thinking process, brainstorming, inspiration. So there, it's a huge process. You start from a research, you come down to vision ideas, you come down to thinking, you come down to brainstorming, inspiration, and then you finally come to a certain
Ma'am, your voice is not audible, maybe muted.
I think there is some connectivity error, ma'am.
Like, she's on mute actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anu, can you hear us? Let me just.
The first thing is that you keep your problem in the center and start mapping it up. So mapping in all the format. I'll just try to show you a small PDF as a mind map which we have done for our age group. Just a minute, I'll just share that. Nidhi, is it being shared or my computer screen has?
No, not yet.
No, ma'am.
Okay, okay, just sorry. I think something went wrong. Uh, Yeah, I'll just share my screen once again. Is it visible?
Yes, it's
Yes, ma'am, now
visible
it's
now.
visible.
Okay, okay, okay. So, this is a small thought process, a design process, what we say. It was done by one of our students when we gave them a certain age group. We gave them an elderly group, 60 and above, senior citizens. We told them, you do a small empathy map and you come up with the first two process of defining your problem and doing a research and a mind map on it. So I'll just show you the process how we went ahead. So first of all, they defined, we have elderly 60 years and above. Elderly or old age consists of ages nearing or surpassing the average lifespan of human beings. So that is how they defined their 60 years and above, and they showed it with the visual. So I said you have to have both words and visuals together so that you're able to make them understand what are you trying to say. So even if I'm not able to read what you've written, but the visuals are quite good enough for me to understand what age group you have taken. Then they came to the word, we've given them a word called nostalgia, was the theme which we have given them. So they'd say the meaning of a sentimental longing or wistful affection for a period in the past. So this is how they've done a mind map. This is one basic mind map, though we do a huge mind map. It's not so limited thing. We do it like a huge paper and just start writing on it. So whatever comes to your mind when you say elderly. So like for example, they've divided it into phases. You can see food, user need, stereotypes, color, needs, health. So you'll realize that from health facilities like community, food, routine, respect, physical activity, comfort, to health, they have sleep habits, there's physiological problems, less sleep, concentration, emotional stability, safety and security. The food they like smoothies, drink of curd, milk, yogurt, soups, bread rolls, fresh fruits and salad, vitamin D rich substances. All this has come once they have actually spoken to few of the users, and also some which they have there by their own, what they've seen their grandparents and people around them. So the kind of colors they prefer, the kinds of dependent phrase, the stereotypes which they, you fix it with the 60 years and old now when you start saying अरे तो 60 साल के बुढ़े हैं, that's like a kind of a thing which you say now, the youngsters have started saying. So what words do they come like, out of touch, burden, strict with laws, stubborn. So that's how people define, because we are designing it for these people, and one has to understand that the psychology of everybody has to be understood. So that's how they came down to these. And then, so they figured out the color palette, that these are the colors which they prefer. And then they started making visuals for everything, like for every board, because this is a research board. It's a board which is supposed to be now, because it was a digital online classes, so they have done it in a various formats, but otherwise one big page and you put your pictures there. So fabric may they prefer lightweight fabrics, they have comfortable fabric, they warm fabrics, the kind of fabrics and silhouettes they prefer. Right now, we didn't give them any brief about regarding the client is from India or international. They could have just, we told them you have to just think about 60 years and above. Then the kind of visuals you can see, dependent. So when we say dependent, dependent in the word means that just like the kids are dependent on their parents, similarly the old age groups are dependent on their parents. And it's not necessary that how will you show the word dependent. So dependent is shown through the visual wherein you have uh, uh, kids in the nest and they're having food. Similarly, weak. So you can see the kind of visual being used. They need a support to work on. They're out of touch. You can see the kind of visual being used. Laws. For them, they're still at the edge of that. The if you see this visual, it says that they're standing on the edge, and for them, that's what it is. Though the time has passed and the laws have changed, but they're still on the same old edge. They're frail, they're burdened. At times people feel that they're burden on themselves. They're no technology, they don't like technology, so they're still good with the pencils and things like that. And at times they were stubborn also. So you have to look at visuals which give you some interesting facts as well. Warmth, so you can see the warmth and the kind of relationship they have when they grow old. And you can see they love music, they love old things, they love old books, they love to have a physical comfort, they love if they're husbands and wife how close they grow. Then they kind of food they eat. So they have collected some visuals as per their understanding. And insomnia, so they show insomnia is they have financial insecurity, they have sometimes cognitive function, they don't remember things, they times they're not able to see properly, they need a support and all that. So you can look at the visuals and can make out that what exactly does it show you. Then then comes your user needs of elderly people. So they're lightweight, they need something. Now the product definition is coming in, that after looking at all this, they want something which is lightweight because they cannot carry heavy things. They'll need less screen time, they do, because they're not techno savvy. They want something which is affordable pricing because they've already said that they need financial support. And they're very manual, so they love to read books, and they're very, very stable. That means whatever they select, they would be very support, will they keep that thing with them for years and years. They're very stable in their decision. They would not be, I like this, the next day they'll say, I don't like it, I don't know why did I buy it. They're not like that, they're very stable people. So this understanding, this is, I said, empathizing and putting it into a research and visual words and your images. I hope it's clear. Okay. Let me now go back to my the main presentation. Okay, coming back to my presentation here. So this is how we do mind map. We do mind map in every sense, as I said, and we put all the words, we put all the visuals together, and then we see it. I'll quickly go now because I even want to show a video. Nidhi, is that allowed?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I'll just finish the ideating part, and then I'll show that before I come to my second part of the presentation. So the another tool which we majorly use, so mind map is something which you can sit and you can do it like that. You can start writing your words and then you can start collecting your visuals later, because for designer, visual works more than anything else. So we need visual for everything. Even if you're feeling a pain, I pinch you. So you feel a pain, right? And I want to tell you, not tell me, how will you show me that pain? So how do you show that pain is something which students have to understand. For example, uh, you saw an ice cream and you really want to have it. So there is that uh, uh, eagerness, that kind of anxiety, and that things, the emotions coming to your thing. You want that. So you have to show that emotion. Everything comes through a visual. And that's how you're able to show your support designs, and you create your textures and prints and your designs on it. So that's a whole process. Then we come to using Scamper is the second tool which you can use. It's to think outside the box. As the word says, S means substitute, C means combine, A means to adapt, M means to magnify or modify, P means put to other use, E means to eliminate, and R means to rearrange or reverse. So I'll just go through this quickly. I'll show you one example of a scamper, which is there in the presentation. So as I said, this is what it means. Every word has one meaning. Now, what does mean substitute means? When I said that, when I showed you the first slide before, when I said that you can relook at your designs, flexibility and things. So here are some things you can put into it, like what can be substituted, who else, what else. For example, you have a product and you would like to change it. So what exactly can you substitute? Can you substitute the material? Can you substitute the way it works? Can you substitute its matlab, anything, whatever you can substitute in terms of its design of a product. Think about a product. Let's say everybody should think about a toothbrush. Okay, so a toothbrush can be thought about, can you change it somehow? Can it be made up of wood? Can it be made up of steel? Can it be made up of something else? So what else can you substitute? Start thinking that way. So it has to be out of the box. You don't have to think that it has to be made up only of plastic. No, let's not get into the plastics right now. It's already available. I'm telling you to work on your a toothbrush. Can the rules be changed? Can you change a toothbrush not to be a toothbrush? Can you do that? Can you do something? Think about it. Other ingredients, as I already said, you can change it. You can use another any other material. Other process or procedure means that instead of cleaning it, what is it used for? Cleaning your teeth. So instead of cleaning your teeth, can it be used for something else? Is there any process which you can substitute? Other power, matlab power is the kind of mode of electricity or something like that, fuel or something which you're adding. Other place, instead of using a toothbrush for your teeth, can you use your toothbrush somewhere else? Think about it. Maybe like a hairpin, or maybe like something you're wearing, maybe something for opening a keychain. Think over it. Other approach, that's how your other place and approach will come together. What else instead? What else can you think about from a toothbrush? And what other part instead of this? So you can change maybe a part of a toothbrush, not only the bristles, maybe only the body of it, main body of it. Put to other uses. What else can be this be used for? What are the new ways to use as is? If you want to use the toothbrush as is, what are the other things you can do from it? Other uses if modified. Matlab, if you want to modify it, and for example, you all have seen toothbrushes which are there, which were like a neem ki lakdi thi, and now we had toothbrush which have different kinds of bristles, and now we have toothbrush which also have a motor connected to it. So it has been modified every day. Can you do more modification to it? Start thinking. What else could be made from this? And other extensions or other markets. Even if you're supplying it for a kids, can you go ahead and make it for something somebody else can also use it? Or maybe disabled kids can also use it somehow, who do not have hands to use. Can that be another market or opportunity you can look at? So how can you make one product put into other uses as well? Combine. So when we say combine, what ideas can be combined? Can we combine purposes, two different purposes together? What about an assortment? What about a blend and alloy or an assemble? Combine units. What other articles could be merged with it to create a new product altogether? How could we package a combination? Like, for example, with a toothbrush, if you give them a toy which can, for a kid, you can put it at the back of the toothbrush. It becomes like a package and people love to buy, like Kinder Joy. It's like a package. They sell your toy and your chocolates together. What can be combined to multiply possible uses? So, can you make one product solve more problems? What material could would be combined, could be combined? So plastic ke saath mein what else can you combine together so that it becomes more approachable? And combine appeals, can you make it like a more appealing factor so that more people are attracted and they can buy? Modify. So can this be altered better the way it looks like right now? Can what can be modified? If yes, then what can be modified? Means change in color, change in motion, change in sound, order, form, shape. What would you like to modify? Would you like to change its name? If I say surf, everybody understands I'm talking about a blue colored powder or maybe a liquid, whatever you're using right now. If I say Colgate, everybody understands I'm talking about a toothpaste. But I don't say toothpaste, because when I say toothpaste, everybody starts thinking, okay, which brand are you talking about? Colgate, Pepsodent, you're talking about Senquelef, whatever. So some things, some names have become like a ketchup. When I say ketchup, it's like it's a name of a product. They sell from that. Ariel, so that means you don't say detergent, you say Ariel Liana, you say Surf Liana. So surf is something which is a name of a product. So name also matters a lot. It brings a lot of brand loyalty. What other forms could this take? What other package would you like to give it? What changes can be made in the plans, in the production and marketing? Other changes. Can the package be combined with the form? There is, because see, the product or any kind of thing never ends with just designing of a product. It has to be aesthetically and should satisfy the user from the time they open it to the time they use it, until the time they maintain it. So whenever you buy these mobile phones, they come up in a very interesting packages. Even the packages of your perfumes are so beautiful. You keep those bottles with you. Why? Because they're so beautifully done. So that's what important. So you are looking at a product from all the angles, starting from the raw material to the time you market it. So with the name as well. So that everything becomes the part of your design process. Can the package be combined with the form? Is there a new twist? You can add a twist to it. For example, you keep getting those um, chips mein, you start getting salted chip, then you have garlic salted chip, then you have some tango chip or something like that, chips like that. So you keep adding new twist to it and people try to take it up. Sometimes it's a it's a hit, sometimes it's a flop. So design, actually this process occurs in all the form, whether you talk about a product, whether you talk about food, service, anything. So I'll be talking about that also in my further slides. Eliminate or minify. So sometimes, what if this was smaller? You don't need to have everything which is bigger, and you can't buy all those things. So sometimes you can just compact it, make it minimalistic, and use it. So the best example of this is would be, I would say, Japanese market. If you see the products of Japanese market, they are the best to show the process. The same product which you're using, you may be having four parts of it to use to provide you that service. Those the Japanese products will have just one small unit, and you'll be able to satisfy almost all the problems that you have. So that's what you need to please go through Japanese market products as well sometime whenever you get time and you're interested in design. What should I omit? Can I remove something? Should I divide it? Should I split it up? Should I separate it into different parts? Should I understate it? Streamline, make miniatures, condense it, compact it, subtract, delete. Can the rules be eliminated? What's not necessary? For example, in a toothpaste, if I don't want to add let's say, a handle to it, is it possible? Can I completely delete the bristles के मतलब you use your toothbrush every day, so if you want to remove a certain part of it and say कि I don't want to have that part of neck, it has a neck, so I don't want to eliminate that, but is it going to helpful for the user or not? That you also have to check. Every point when you start thinking about it, first take out of the box thinking and try to do these out of. At times you'll feel this is going to really be a flop, doesn't matter, just put it on piece of paper, and then later on you can find out that probably one problem, one idea which you were doing which was completely flop, another idea which was flop, when combined together comes up as a fruitful idea. So that's how we keep asking people to keep doing a lot of research. Rearrange, what other arrangements might be better? Interchange components, other patterns. So puzzle is the best example. How can you move the puzzles together so that you can create something new out of it? So Lego is a very good example of that. You can create as many shapes as you want from the same blocks. So how exactly you can rearrange everything so that something new can come up? So adapting is also very important. How can you adapt it? How much should you adapt? Original ideas, whatever is there. How much can you adapt and how much can you change is actually the idea. Does the past offer a parallel? So you have to have the actually existing solution for that problem, and then you have to adapt accordingly. You have to see how much would you like to adapt and how much would you like to change. So that is also something a part of your design. Magnify. So at times you can, as I said, minify, you can magnify it also, same thing. You can add extra value, you can add extra features, you can have stronger, higher, longer, but whatever you would like to. The time span could be more. So think about, if it is to be used for a longer amount of time, can the if I want to use my brush for a longer amount of time, can there be a small screen attached to it where my messages are coming in? Is it possible? I have a small screen and all my WhatsApp messages are rotating when I'm brushing. I can see and I can brush my teeth also. Think over it. Is it possible? You just put down the idea and later on you can delete or you can adapt that idea based on what your solution is. So this is an example of a teaspoon project which I've taken from the internet. It's a teaspoon, if you can see, and if you can see, the designer has written the way of combining things. Like for example, let's start from here. So A, adapted and enlarged, magnified. So what have they done is they have thought about putting it into completely different product, a spoon. So they have made a small spaghetti time, they've written a clock, and the spoon becomes the hour hand and the minute hand, fork. Combined with another service, change of purpose. So this is what it has done. Can you change the product completely and come up with something else? So the spoon edge is converted into a pencil. So that is how you combine and then you substitute. You can substitute with some other material as well. Like, yeah, for example, they've written polyethylene, triphthalate, PET, plastic software. So whatever they would like to change the complete substitute the material of it. Purpose suddenly changed. So you have to keep changing. For example, here it becomes a multi-purpose thing. So combined and then you have adapted it. So what you have done is that you've combined it with a fork and a knife together, and they work on a fulcrum. So you have three things in one, multi-purpose in one thing. So exaggerated, Magnified is something what the spoon has been converted into form of a giant lamp. So you have the same shape converted into a giant lamp. You've thought about it like a big part set of a fork knife spoon. So you can see this also one of the examples. So keep spoon as spoon and then start thinking what else can be done. So scamper exercise is something wherein you move a product from here to something else and you come up with very vague ideas at times, but then they are the ones which actually give sometimes a very interesting idea. So a chair, when we talk about a chair, I say I want to design a chair. The first question which comes to my mind is what kind of chair are you wanting to make? A straight chair, a rocking chair, an ergo chair, or maybe a beach chair. So, chairs, you have 100 different kinds of chairs. So, you have to have sensory experience, memory, knowledge, imagination. So, sight, sound, touch, smell, taste, felt, intuitive, emotional, tangible is something what you keep in mind when you make a design of a chair. That means when I am talking about a rocking when I'm talking about a straight chair, so what exactly do I want, how do I want to use it, who is going to use it, what kind of experience the person is going to have. So that is something which I have to put it together while designing the product. So design thinking has to have all these factors of yours to be kept in mind before you come down to the final form or a design of a product. You need to understand from every way how it is going to look, how is it going to be the one which is going to attract you, how is it going to feel. Smell, of course, at times it is not required in chairs or something like that, but taste is also not part of it. But kind of forms it will come when you combine these kinds of senses together. Okay, so just I'll just show a small video in the meanwhile, just for you to make you understand of how design works. So design, I'm not showing a product. I'm just showing a small video and let me have your views on it. What exactly you thought about it? Can I? It's a small advertisement. Okay.
Yes, ma'am, please.
I hope everyone can hear the sound.
Yes.
हाँ हाँ अरे स्कूटर तो हरिओम हो गया, पता भी नहीं पल्ले पड़ रहा। अरे कौन सा पुलिया भाई साहब, आपने आप कोई पुलिया देखी? हाँ जी, ब्रिज ब्रिज नहीं बड़ा अंदर क्यों है? अबे पुलिया की चीटी है। चलिए चलाई चले, ऐसे कैसे मिस हो जाएगा? इसी रास्ते पे आगे जाके लेफ्ट ना, उसी पे ना। हेलो अरे हेलो, सिग्नल ही खत्म, कोई साथी नहीं मिलता। तो आप लिफ्ट मांग रहे हैं? लिफ्ट कौन मांग रहा है यार, आगे तक जाना है, लेकिन पता भी तो नहीं ना कहाँ जाना है। मतलब फिर मैं आपको ड्रॉप कैसे? अरे वाह, ये चलता है आपका? हाँ लेकिन नहीं नहीं, एड्रेस पता चल जाएगा तो आपको ऐसे छोड़ दे। सर आई एम ऑन माय वे टू अ फ्रेंड्स होम। पासवर्ड खोल दे, एकदम जलेबी टाइप है पासवर्ड। अरे किसी लेडी का फोन आ गया। हेलो, क्या कर रही हैं? रीचिंग रीचिंग। अरे व्हाट आर यू डूइंग? ड्राइविंग मैडम, ड्राइविंग। आप फोन दीजिए मेरा। थैंक यू। अरे यही बात तुम बोलते हम बोल दिए। हाँ भाई, हम बोल रहे हैं। नाम तो बताइए, जगह का नाम। एक सेकंड होल्ड कीजिएगा। ये वही है ना जो मैप पता था? जी। एड्रेस बोलो, कहाँ का है, पता बताओ। कल्याण मिल्क कॉलोनी। एक मिनट भाई साहब, कैन यू टाइप 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 इट? मिल्क दूध कॉलोनी। अबे मिल गया। एक मिनट बॉस, हम लोग यहाँ नहीं जा सकते, ये रास्ते में नहीं पड़ता है, 16 किलोमीटर अवे। अरे मैं पेट्रोल भरवा दूंगा ना। अरे पेट्रोल की बात नहीं है, ये इलेक्ट्रिक कार है। ये कार इलेक्ट्रिक है? अरे मेरा मतलब पॉइंट नहीं है, चलाया जा रहा है। मुझे कहीं और जाना है। सब तो कहीं ना कहीं जा रहे हैं, कुछ लोग आगे जा रहे हैं, कुछ लोग। हैप्पी बर्थडे ईशा। क्या कर रहे हैं यार आप? बर्थडे है? हाँ तो क्या अभी जल्दी पड़ी हुई है। हाँ दिखाओ क्या।
अरे छोड़िए, आप क्या कर रहे हैं?
छोड़ दे भाई, उम्र तुम्हारी है, एंजॉय एंजॉय।
मैं मोड़ पे उतार देता हूँ, आप किसी और से लिफ्ट।
आगे 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 आगे, सेम टू सेम।
अरे मत छुइए, अरे आप क्या कर रहे हैं यार? आप अरे आप मना कर रहा हूँ इतनी देर से यार। आप
अरे यानी यहाँ क्यों?
सर आप बाहर निकलिए।
अरे नहीं,
आप उसको छोड़ दीजिए, मैं आपको क्या कह रहा हूँ, प्लीज गेट ऑफ माय कार।
लग गया
सर, मैं आपको क्या कह रहा हूँ, दिस इज माय कार, प्लीज गेट ऑफ माय कार राइट नाउ।
अरे अजीब, लगा दिया।
थैंक यू सो मच। Sorry baby, some random guy entered my car यार, saying थोड़ा आगे तक ड्रॉप कर दो। Full psycho man, I can't tell you यार। अच्छा, where are you? I'll be there in like 40 minutes. Come fast. 1 minute, हाँ, I'll call you back. Somebody is calling me. Hello? Hello, डॉक्टर साहब। कौन डॉक्टर साहब? अरे हमने अभी बात की थी ना उनसे, इसी नंबर पर। भाई साहब वो उतर गए, आप उनके नंबर पे फोन करिए। अरे यहाँ बहुत इमरजेंसी है, अभी सांस भी धीरे धीरे चल रही है। सांस? किसकी सांस? अरे हमारी गाय की, सुबह से बीमार है। डॉक्टर साहब कहाँ है? वो आदमी गाय का डॉक्टर है? हाँ, ब्रिज के पहले उतारा की बात में। अरे वो ब्रिज के पहले उतारा था? पहले उतारा की। हेलो? हेलो?
Goodness is a choice you make.
आइए।
तुम हमारी किस्मत से तो क्या करें? The old electric Mahindra E2 driven by goodness. क्या बात है, बड़ी फैंसी।
So, as I said, at times you must have seen this ad properly. If you could have made out that it is only a 3 minutes ad, see, that's the best way of seeing the design. So, when you see that car, he also showed navigation. So, they showed the whole product specifications. It has a front, it has a back, it has seat, it had belts, it had everything, and they showed navigation instrument also inside. Then they talked about it's a electric car, and the last tagline which they say is the person said the choice, the good choice, making a good decision is your choice, right? So you're using a sustainable electric car is your choice because you care about your environment, you care about the pollution, and that's the reason why you are switching on to a very to a kind of a car which is electric in nature. So that's how design is at times. Advertisement tries to show you what a client, to what clientele are you targeting. People who want to buy a car, people who are conscious, people who would love to have something which is compact car, but it's quite technology friendly. I'll show you one more ad because that's something also about uh, a good. So, see, in India, values makes a lot of sense. We are the people who love to have good values. And if you try to make this emotional connect, as I said, emotions are very important. So, when you connect it emotionally, matlab, you're talking about a cow who's going to deliver a baby, and you're talking about a wet you're trying to reach. It makes no sense to everybody that how a car and a cow and a wet can be combined together, but they've combined it so nicely and beautifully that your values also came into it, your culture also came into it, and it also showed the car importance. So that's how design has to be so that it can reach to you the best way. I'll show you one more ad which was given a award as well. This was also an awarded ad. I'll show you one more ad which shows this same kind of feeling. Everyone must have used Olex for selling something or not. So I'll show you this one first. This is 2014 Best Award winning ad. It's from Indonesia, and this was also awarded the best ad.
แค่ความรู้สึกได้เห็นความสุขได้เข้าใจได้ความรักได้ในสิ่งที่เงินซื้อไม่ได้ได้โลกที่สวยงามกว่าเดิมในชีวิตคุณ
Can you guess what ad this is for? Any idea? No? Students? Let me finish this thing.
Prof, you're
Sorry?
uh, telling Nidhi to mute.
Can't hear you. I think your voice is cracking. Sorry.
Life insurance, maybe.
Yes, it's a life insurance ad.
อะไรคือสิ่งที่คุณต้องการมากที่สุดให้ประกันชีวิตเชื่อในความดี
Yes, it is a life insurance ad. It's actually something which is so if you see, wait, just close this. So this is an ad which actually connects to the emotions. As much as you connect with the emotion of the consumer, maybe in terms of not only in the ads, of course, takes a lot of very small time span they have to hit on the nail. Same goes with the movies. You see all different kinds of movies. It's also design process. How they design it. So we have a lot of things which happens in the movies. The kind of colors they use, the kind of dresses they use, the kind of background they use. There is a lot of terms which you see in the design process part of it. So when you learn about composition, when you learn about colors, the textures, everything becomes a part of the design process. So that's how the product also carries these kinds of emotions. If you add these emotions, your product is definitely a hit because you would like to see people getting attached to it. My mom gave it to me, it becomes more important to you. Suddenly it comes from your nanny, it becomes very important to you. So things becomes important when they have an emotional value to it. You are making it for your kid for the first time, there would be another emotional value added to it. So everybody, the product also sells off when you have an emotional value attached to it. So let's get back to the presentation quickly, and then we can see one more interesting ad, which is everybody must have seen that, but it's a very hilarious ad. So we'll go on to that later. So once you have designed, you have imagined the kind of chairs. So when you talk about a chair has to be done, the things form starts coming into your picture as we were talking about, and your emotion starts coming into your brain. Like if you're a beach, well, the beach scenes will start coming in. If it's a ergo chair, then you'll start thinking about in an office and you're moving on to it, or a rocking chair or a straight chair. So all this becomes part of your design process. Coming to prototypes, once you have ideated your designs properly and you have scamper technique or mind mapping or whatever way tool you have used to make up your designs, then prototyping has to be done. Prototyping can be done in a format of a small prototypes are actually a small scale size of the actual product. So when we are talking about furnitures and things like that, we make small size products. But when we talk about food and everything, then we actually you must have gone to certain malls where people come up and tell you, please taste this is a new thing which has come into the market and we would like to have your feedback on it. So those are all test prototypes. Similarly, we do a lot of prototypes if we talk about ads, right? At times many ads have to be taken down. Have you heard about this ad which came in? um, this was an ad which Fab India released few days back, about last year or something, when they were talking about a certain the Naira or Fab India. I don't remember the exact brand name. Sorry to exactly take the name, but then the brand was asked to remove the video because it actually sentimentally was touching the values of a certain culture. So one has to be so the advertisements also goes through a prototype testing. So you test it with few users and see whether this can be launched into a bigger market or not. Similarly, trailers are one of the kind of a prototype of a film which we use. So everything has a prototype. So how do you do it and how do you interact with them? So experience is very important to note over here about for the people who can see what exactly people are feeling while using that prototype. And then finally the final product comes into the picture. So, how to prototype? You can do empathy gaining. Prototyping deepens your understanding of users in the design space. Explore, develop multiple concepts to test in parallel. Create prototypes to test and refine solution, and inspire others by showcasing your vision. So, this is how the prototyping is done. You can give it to the user and make them understand that this is what you have made. You can explore parallelly. You can come up, if possible, if only possible, for certain products. You can have parallelly multiple products. Like whenever Lays come down to a kind of chips they want to launch, they will come into three, four, at least three tastes. They will flavors will come into the market. They will not launch one single flavor because they know one of them will be a flop. So the other two can pick up. That's how everything comes with a multiple thing, only if it is possible. Not for everything you can do that. Create prototypes to test and refine solutions to figure out whether your solution is perfect or not, or whether you would like to change it. So that's the reason that prototypes are the must for testing and to give you inspiration. So once you if you go back to the whole situation, you have defined your problem, you have justified your problem, you have created your concepts, you need a technology, then you do a scientific research and then you come back to it. If you don't need a technology and you want to develop a solution, you have done that. Decide on an idea that best meets the criteria, fits within the constraints, has the least negative characteristics. So that is the best thing which you have to do that, and create a detailed design sketch on an AutoCAD. So all of us do a lot of design prototyping on different CAD softwares which we have. So we do 3D rendering of them so that it's very close to what actual product is going to look like. So that when you're selling a design, it's become easier for you to pitch in for investment before even if you get into the actual development of the sample. So you have to check your test performance, usability, durability, test your prototype and collect test data and analyze your test data. So once you develop a solution, the solution is valid, construct the test prototype. If you see still the solution is not valid, go back and see where the problem was, and you can come back to generate concepts and see your concepts were right or not. If your concepts are still over and you don't find any problem in your concepts, then that means your problem was wrong. So go back to your problem again. So here, that's the reason why you have to be very clear about your problem. Once your problem is clear, everything, the whole chain will be very clear for you. Otherwise, you'll have to keep doing it again and again. So now you have to test it, put it into the market and see the feedback of the users, and try to see what exactly is the feedback coming to you. Is it positive or is it negative? Whenever there is negative critique of it, we always say feedback means it's criticizing a design doesn't mean that it is something which is negative. It is always that it has a potential and it can improve. That means there is something which you have lacked, and that is how you can improve it. So criticism is the best tool for testing your design. So test mode is an iterative mode in which you can place low resolution prototypes in the appropriate context of your user's life. So how to test? Learn more about your user, refine your prototype and solutions, test and refine your point of view. At times, your testing is to be done on two, three, four formats. First of all, see whether your user is happy with it. If your user is not happy, then you have to relook at your solutions. And also, you have to also see that what you wanted to say is actually what people have understood. At times when I show, like you saw that ad and you suddenly said it's an ad of insurance, life insurance, right? It was because that's what they wanted to show. Until unless somebody starts thinking about, oh, this is a person who is helping everybody without any cause, I don't know, maybe a social ad or maybe an NGO ad or something, so then your problem is wrong. Something has gone wrong and you're not able to make them understand. So your point of view has to also be mentioned there in your design solution. You're not supposed to speak, your product has to speak about you, what you wanted to say. So you have to evaluate the results. Does anything need to be improved? You have to see that. Make modifications to the design if required. And does the design solve the problem? Now look at it whether your problem has been solved or not. Because the users, if they're happy, your problem has been solved. And please make sure that users are not your friends. Users are somebody whom you don't know. And you give them the product and say, if this is a problem, kindly use this and see what exactly answers do you get. If there is a problem, please relook at your designs, and then you have to document and communicate the project with the to the presenter for an investment. This is how the whole design process takes place. So, right, starting from defining the problem, generating the concepts, developing a solution, constructing and test prototyping, and evaluating the solutions, and coming up, if wrong, then going back to present a solution. So, which the most complicated stage I would say is coming up with the ideas, generating concepts, because here the bulb looks to you in different format. Which one is going to be the best? Even you don't know until unless you test, until unless you come up with the best solution which users would prefer. So, it depends upon the research you have done, the kind of users, and the problem you are exactly looking to. So, your concepts have to be perfect in that matching process. So, a design process is an iterative process because steps are repeated until the problem is solved. You keep going back to the same steps until unless the whole thinking has been. And so, it was also said that an engineer designs, builds, tests, analyzes, and refines until a solution is reached. So, we say a designer is always like an engineer because you're always coming up with a solution which people would like to modify a product to a solution. So, that's what iteration of the design means. Now, at times, this is the process which we follow when you have a problem, you figure out a problem. Like, for example, I am sitting in a class right now, and the class is not interested. So I come up with a problem myself. Came up with the solution myself for that. But at times, you get a brief from a client. Then your process is much more refined as compared to what you have thought about. So there are few minor changes in the whole process. Otherwise, the process remains the same. I'll quickly go through all the slides now, and you'll be able to see that the same process has been followed, but a little bit of refinement is there. So you receive a problem to solve from the client. As you can see, the problem has come, and you again look for where, who, how, when, whom, which, what, why, all different questions which comes to your mind. You have to solve that out. So you have to define a problem. You have to gather information and be inspired through media exposure of a current problem and take action. You have to really look at what exactly the problem is in the current scenario and take an action for that. So you have defined your problem. Now, brainstorming. A group problem solving process in which each person in the group presents ideas in an open forum. So when we discuss, the whole design team sits together and they start brainstorming that this is the problem. The company works like this and generate, record and ideas and keep the mind alert through rapid paced sessions, develop preliminary ideas that this is what it is going out to be. Then they research and generate ideas. So they conduct interviews to the who are affected by we call them as the stakeholders of the industry of that problem. And then we do a research solution. We look at the existing problems. We look at the existing products. We do a lot of research and compile ideas and report findings to the team. Then we identify criteria and specify constraints. So here the constraint becomes the most important thing. So if I talk about a constraint for a project here, in terms of schedule, when it has to be submitted, the timeline you have in your hand, what are the resources in your hand, what is the budget, what are the risks, what is the scope of the product which you're making, the project you're doing, and the quality is required from it. All these are important constraints of a project which every company also looks into it before they come down and finalize on any kind of a design project. Then they design the design brief, draft the design brief. Once the design brief have been drafted, keeping the six constraints in mind, then they look at brainstorming and the brainstorming ideas. They look at the new technologies and the new alternative ideas which they can come up. Already there are a lot of ideas available. Coming up with something new is going to be the way. So they use an approach which majorly is being used in the engineering industry. So what do they do is they put the ideas on this side. This is called as decision matrix, and they put the criterias onto this side. So when they total it up, they come to see in design a plus a is never 2a plus a could be b also. So in this is an approach where people actually from the engineering background, they are used to those numbers. So what they do is, if I see show you in my next slide, they'll put it as something which is urgent and important, do it now. That means this is the perfect answer for it. Then important, not urgent. So every idea they'll break it into four parts. इसका ये पार्ट अच्छा है, अर्जेंट है, इसको हाईएस्ट नंबर दे दो, दूसरे को कम दे दो, उससे कम दे दो, उससे कम दे दो. So every idea will get certain numbers. Then they'll add it and they'll see which is the best ideas to come up. But this is not exactly the way most of the design field work. This is majorly being done in the industry where the design thinking is being done for a certain if they have to launch a brand, if they have to launch a new altogether a new line of product, then this kind of design thinking happens. So design thinkings actually happen everywhere, I'm talking about right starting from making a product to a service to a, even in a class. If you plan to take a class, you design a class. So design thinking is everywhere. So this is about a business where how does it work? Then we develop a design proposal, make a exactly the idea of what we want, how we want, what are the constraints, everything with the prototype and everything. The design proposal is created in the industry, and computer generated models are created so that the ideas could be refined. Once the ideas have been selected, prototypes are developed using different kinds of materials. As I said, prototypes are the must for you to test whether the product is good, whether the people have liked the product, whether you would like to change the product and everything. So that is the make a model or a prototype. And test and evaluate, as I said in the last whole process way also, that design experiments and test the prototype in controlled and working environments, gather performance data, analyze and check results against established criteria, and conduct a formal critique to flesh out areas of concerns and identify shortcomings and establish any need of redesign work. So this is the same thing which we've been talking about. Now, once every the designs have been modified, rebuilt, prototype has been done, everything is perfect. That means there are no changes required, and the client is happy with it, the users are happy with it, the feedback is good. Then only you get a seal of approved design. Until unless that, you keep going back and keep doing the whole process, as I said in the last slides. Now, in the end, in the product design never ends like that. Product design is also about creating or making solutions. Till now we were talking about something which was already being told to you in the last part of the presentation. Here we are talking about determine the customer mass production. Your product has to be mass produced. Can it be mass produced? Can it be done multiple kind of it? So that also you have to look at it, that it's production friendly as well. Your design cannot be something which is out of the box but cannot be put into use for many people. Then it becomes it's a useless design. Also, you have to understand packaging. Packaging is very important for a design thinking, because until unless your packaging is good, your product will never sell. Your packaging has to be perfect if you have to sell your product. And the last one is, how will you advertise your product? That means branding. When we talk about a client brief, we also think about, we can give ideas from packaging. We can also go and extend our ideas that, okay, fine, I have designed this dupatta and this dupatta is for a certain client. Now this can be sold with such kind of a packaging, and it can be branded or it can be marketed with the use of social media, or I can do a small reel of it, or I can do something, I can make an interesting ad out of it. So something like this which gives communicate the process and the result. So this is also an important part. Advertising is an important part of design thinking. Nowadays we have various formats of design. So you must have heard about UI design, you must have heard about UX design, you must have heard about interaction design, service design, design for special needs, behavior design, human centric design. All these areas are wherein user interfaces, when you all are using mobile phones, right? So when you open your mobile WhatsApp up, when you open your WhatsApp, there are various formats which comes. Background हटा सकते हो, उसको interesting बना सकते हो, या फिर you go on an online website and then you start scrolling. Okay, so you like this dress, zoom in, and then you want to look at the variant of it, then it shows you variant of it. So UI is your user interaction design between the user and the interface, the website, the phones, the laptops, the interface between it. So it is like a huge hit market right now, because we are all on smartphones and everything. So UI design is something which is very famous right now in India, and people are moving towards it. Then comes your user experience design, that we call it as UX design, which is part of all the design processes. Because until unless you understand your user, you will never be able to design a product. So user experience design is about people who are being hired to only understand the experience of a user in the testing of the prototype, or even empathizing the user. So that many designers are being hired by bigger companies for doing this kind of a job as well. Then comes the interaction design. Design thinking is like, when we interact, the product interacts with you, right? So that's an interaction design. Service design is your ads, your any kind of a your sorry collaterals done. So your branding and everything becomes your service design. Design for special needs, when you make it for people who are physically handicapped or something like that. Behavioral design, so at times you have a lot of doctors who comes in and they tell the kids are having these kinds of problems, so for a certain behavior of a user you design some products. And human centric is like an open end, so it's HCD is like an open thing where we talk about that anything related to human beings. So you have to look at what is the need of a human being, ergonomically is it okay, will the human be able to use it, so all that becomes a human centric design. And when you see this, they're all overlapping to each other. So we have service design, human centric design, design thinking comes here. So design thinking is something, is a big circle which also is overlapping citizen science, your policing, your transition design, your behavioral design, social design, they're all interlapping each other. You cannot do anything without looking at the various parts of it. If I'm designing a product, I have to look at how human going to use it. Human, if I'm talking about a human, then human lives in a society, so I have to look at the social design also. When I'm looking at the social design, I also have to look at the kind of services being provided to that human living in that society, so service design comes into picture. Because it's a human, behavioral design science comes into picture altogether. So psychology becomes part of it. So everything, and your policies, your political policies, everything is part of it when you design. So design thinking is a huge area. And coming up with ideas, it also comes with time. When you start like, I for every design thinking process, I think every person should also read a newspaper and should be aware about what's happening in the industry or what's happening around you. Because environment sometimes gives you some ideas which you may not even think about, you may not have even thought about. um, for example, uh, Ukraine and Russia war has created a lot of pressure on us in terms of our products used to travel on ship through Ukraine, and then they used to reach US, right? So there was a way of going, shipping our products of any kind of apparel or home or any kind of goods. Now that has been affected. So the ships have to take a longer route because of the kind of war which is happening. So when this is happening, if the time has increased of the product reaching from our country to that country, everything gets affected. If it's a food product, preservation has to increase. If it's a product, textile product, then you have to think about how will it exactly help me, because now I may not have certain raw materials which comes from Ukraine, or maybe something like, for example, there would be change in the kind of the way you want to ship your products. The You may like to air freight them or something. So everything gets affected in your design, and you have to keep changing your product, ingredients of your product, as per what's happening across in the country. So that's a huge thing which can be discussed upon when we do an offline thing. uh, Also, so designing a product, I have shown you designing of service. Now this is service design methodology. This is another model which is system thinking principles. So in a business, in any kind of a business, so if they're doing it like an organization, let's say a craftsman, right? So you have to see the systems theory. So there are three theories which you have to also know about: reasoning and perception theory, that what exactly is happening and why is it happening and what all political parts are happening in the craftsperson life. Then system theory, how his system is working, how that craftsman is creating that product and selling it in the market. You understand that system, and then you apply your design thinking to it. You look at the change you can apply, but you also look at the successful organizations which have been able to manage and give the craftsman a better market of the same category, or maybe some other product as well. So then your design thinking, combining both of this with the experience and learning, comes up with something, intervention and application in an organization. That means it's not for one person, it is for the whole complete organization. It's not one product, it's maybe it is typical for one organization. Like for example, you can do it just for one company, you can do it for one NGO, you can do it for anybody. So design thinking helps, that's a system thinking along with design thinking which can be done. So this is a different way of thinking. यहाँ आपको एक product नहीं बनाना है, यहाँ आपको एक proper process बनाना है, wherein you are intervening and you are making an organization an interesting part. You're helping an organization to do better and produce better. So affirmative topic choice is also being done. This is another design model which is being done by a lot of business people. So what they do is, when they are doing their accounts and their business projects, they define their problems, that they clarify this is my inquiry. then they appreciate, then they best of what it is they discover, they try to look that this is the best part of it, the problem which they have, then they what would they like to do with it, they envision the results, what would they like the end to be like, and then they co-construct, that means they design it according to what exactly is required, and look at it that it can sustains for a long amount of time. Now this looks very difficult part of it, but then there are a lot of videos available on YouTube. I would request, if you're interested in it, you can look at it, because this is a business perspective. Somebody wants to increase the business to a bigger point of view, then they take up these 5D design principle model, which is basically about from the same problem you come up with a solution, and you make it sustain for a long amount of time. So policies are built based on these 5Ds. Any company which makes any law is based on these 5Ds. So they define, they discover, they dream, they design, and they destiny. So that's what it is all about. And the last one is for instructional design. So AD model is where we use it for, we do not end at only making a design, we evaluate it as also in the end. So we start with an analysis, we do a designing, we do developments of a prototype, we do implement the design, and then we evaluate the design. So it's a complete process of analysis. It doesn't end it at, like, for example, you make a prototype and you test it, user says it's fine, and it's over. No, you evaluate it, and further you analyze it, and then further the things can be done. So it's majorly used in the instructional design, as this is the example of it being given here. Every stage is evaluated. So you analyze first of all for who, what, when. You need a training, and you need a personal trained and critical task to be done. Then you design standard outcomes, performance measures, course sequence, resource requirements. What do you want? So you design that completely. Then you develop, so you make a right material, you make produce media, you validate materials, you instruct the preparation, and then facilities what you want. And last comes the implementation. Then you schedule your training, then you distribute material, then you train, educate students, administer test, students assessment, what you do. So what you do in your college is something, is an instructional design. You have been doing this, and it's an everyday process which you do this, but this is an AD model, we call it as. It's a design thinking process. So every place, like a business to a product development to a service to anything, everything has design thinking, and they have different models to follow. So few models which I've discussed, there are few more models, and many more to go. Every time the requirements are changing, the medias are changing, the people are changing, so design is also developing every day. So I would like to finish my presentation with just one quote which Steve Jobs said, that it's not just what it looks like and feels like, design is how it works. So I said it's a solution. This is a whole poster which is there in my room as well, which I always keep looking, and I say that it has to work. If it doesn't work, it's a flop. So that's how design thinking should be, that it has to, in the end, give a solution. Right? Okay. So if you want, I can show you one more very interesting, funny videos which we have, just to show how, matlab, not only emotional values, but something very interesting way you can make people attract to your work according to what exactly is required. Okay? Matlab, you can make people understand what you require. I'll just share that also.
सुशील, हमारा बेटा, बहुत कुछ सिखाता है हमें वो। पापड़ कैसे रोस्ट करते हैं, वॉशिंग मशीन में सब कुछ धुल सकता है, गुरुत्वाकर्षण यानी ग्रेविटी क्या होती है। तो आपके पास कोई वैक्यूम क्लीनर, डीवीडी प्लेयर, वॉशिंग मशीन, लैपटॉप या एक्वेरियम हो तो उसे हमारे लिए OLX पे डाल दीजिए। करेक्ट, ऐसे बहुत से लोग इंतजार कर रहे हैं आपकी चीजों का। अब तो OLX पे बेच दे। हमें तुमसे ये उम्मीद कतई नहीं थी। कहां से मुंह काला करा के आई हो बेगम? बोलो। आप ही के तो हैं। उल्लू समझाए, एक की भी शक्ल नहीं मिलती है मुझसे। एक्सक्यूज मी। Yes. Naya Mentos, bigger, softer, better. एक मिनट, मैं लाल पीला, ये सफेद, झूठी है तो झूठी। आप मुझ पे शक कर रहे हैं। तो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ा, मगर आपको फर्क पड़ेगा। नया पेट्रोल स्पीकर, सॉफ्टर, बेटर। वो फ्लाइट थोड़ी डिलेड है। वीजा के लिए सिर्फ 4-5 चक्कर लगाने पड़े। फ्लाइट टिकट्स के लिए थोड़ी मेहनत करनी पड़ी, पर होटल बुकिंग ऑलमोस्ट हो गई है। और इसके लिए कल रात इट वाज सो थ्रिलिंग। यू नो दिस हॉलिडे हैज ऑलरेडी ब्रॉट अस सो मच क्लोजर।
दर्द मत सही। thomascook.in पर हॉलिडे से जुड़ी हर चीज सॉर्टेड है। नहीं तो फोन कर लीजिए। thomascook.in।
मर गया तू। आ रहा है वो। तू स्प्राइट पीता रहे। तेरी बाइक लेके चंपल हो जाएगा वो।
मुझसे नहीं मांगेगा।
क्यों? तू फन्ने कहाँ है? मेरे से तो रोज बाइक मांगते रहता है वो।
पर मुझसे कहेगा दोस्ती के बीच ना बाइक नहीं आनी चाहिए।
अच्छा, प्लीज यार तेरी बाइक दे दे।
कि तेरा मेरा क्या होता? अपनी है दोनों की।
थैंक यू यार।
दोनों इसे साथ में ढोएंगे।
दोनों
साथ में पेट्रोल भरेंगे।
साथ में।
और ईएमआई भी साथ में भर देंगे।
ब्रदर, हम दोनों के बीच में कभी भी ये बाइक नहीं आनी चाहिए। आई लव यू ब्रदर।
स्प्राइट क्लियर है।
हेलो कार बायर्स, ये है मेरी कार की डिटेल। 2013 डीजल एसयूवी, सिर्फ 20,000 किलोमीटर चली है। सिंगल ओनर, टॉप कंडीशन और इंश्योरेंस भी है, प्लस पावर विंडो।
ढेरों बायर्स को वही बातें रिपीट कर करके परेशान। स्विच टू क्विकर नेक्स्ट। अब बात नहीं, चैट करो अपने कन्वीनियंस पे। प्लस ढेर सारे फीचर्स। नो फिकर, चैट क्विकर, क्विकर क्विकर।
अरे बाप, क्या बात है, क्या बात है। कहाँ से हो? दिल्ली से। दिल्ली में क्या है? कुतुब मीनार। कुतुब मीनार
बनो।
मतलब?
अरे कुतुब मीनार बनो।
सर जाने दो ना प्लीज। ए, बनो तो बनो। पकड़ सीधा, बिल्कुल। हाँ बस।
क्या लीविंग कार और पिज्जा
कहीं जा रहे हो? सर कैमरा ऊपर वाला सब देख रहा है सर। सर एक पिक कुतुब मीनार के साथ।
CV प्लस HD सिक्योरिटी कैमरास। ऊपर वाला सब देख रहा है।
So in this video, when you saw that, it's from right starting from the from a small maybe media is the same. You have the same advertisements, but starting from a CCTV camera to a Sprite to a phone, everything has been sold out. And so your medium remains the same, but your thinking process always keeps changing according to the product. So you keep your problem is different, solution is different. CCTV is for looking at something, Sprite is to give you the coolness and the things like that. So your problem is very different, your solution is also very different, but the medium remains the same. So I mean to say that even if you're designing an apparel, the process will remain the same, but your problem and your solution will be completely different from each other. Just making you look at one more very interesting idea, which also was given a lot of this thing. I'll show you. This everyone has of course seen. This you must be remembering also this ad. So this is not for selling a product, but it is for a social cause. So this was being done for the ministry because, saving power was becoming a huge issue. This was around 10 years back or 8 years back when this ad have come in. You must all be remembering because you must have been seeing this ad. But so things can be done for a social cause also. Not every time it has to be a product which has to be ending. So I want to show you that, see, the same things can be done in such a different manner. You saw products, you saw service being sold, and OLX along with Quicker is a service. If you think about selling a product at OLX, how will you think about it? So they came up with that interesting ad of, if you have anything being sold damaged by the kid of your family, you can always sell it at OLX. So there are medium and ways by you can show, and that really needs an out of the box thinking. And in the last, just showing you the last IDE design process. It's a small animation about the whole process so that you can understand this in the last way. So that's my last video.
If you have a real-world problem to solve, you should use a design process to help you. Our design process will take you through a series of steps and re-steps to develop an innovative solution to the problem you're looking to solve. It's a multi-step design process to guide you in becoming a solutions finder. It's really a cycle that invites you to try, fail, and go back and try again until you achieve greatness. Let's use a real-world story of a solutions finder to show you. Narayana Pisapati is from India. He discovered that every year, 120 billion pieces of plastic utensils, such as knives, forks, and spoons, end up in the trash. In a short period of time, that will seriously harm the environment. So let's use this problem to see how our design process would work. Step 1. Formulate the problem. What is the reality? Narayana identified that our oceans contain over 100 million tons of plastic, but can take up to 1,000 years to fully break down. In some places, you can find 60 times more plastic than plankton, the food of many sea animals. Over 100,000 sea animals die each year from eating plastic. And who knows how much plastic is in the fish we eat? That's the reality of the problem Narayana found. The ideal situation would be to reduce or eliminate plastic utensils. I'm sure he wondered if he could make utensils out of a material that was not harmful to the environment and humans. Once you better understand the reality and the ideal, you need to consider what would happen if the problem situation was not solved. If we don't stop throwing out plastic utensils and other plastics, our oceans will become plastic slime, there will be no more sea life, and humans will be in danger. So this is a good problem to solve. Once you have formulated your problem, the next step is to explore it further. Think about what you already know about the problem. Then you start asking questions to which you want to find answers. Along the way, you must consider how you will find those answers, how you will learn more. During the explore phase, you'll generate lots of questions and seek lots of answers. Chances are, Narayana did a bit of research on different eco-friendly materials to use to make utensils. Step 3 is to ideate. Start generating ideas. Generate lots of them. Don't just accept the first one you find. And stop yourself from deciding if they'll work or not. Just keep generating ideas. You may find you need to return to explore the problem more as you generate ideas. Next, you'll sift through all of those ideas looking for the best. Which ideas could solve the problem? Which ones are possible and could be put into action? Meaning, are the resources available? Is it affordable? And what could go wrong that you haven't already thought about? Your goal is to find the one best solution you want to pursue. Narayana had probably generated a lot of ideas for making utensils from eco-friendly materials. Now he had to select his favorite idea and maybe even explore further. If you sift through your ideas and can't find one that works, you might need to generate more ideas. Narayana decided on an edible spoon made out of different grains. When you finished eating, you could eat your spoon, but if you threw it out, it would decompose in 4 to 5 days. The edible utensil would be highly nutritious if you did decide to eat it. And it could keep in a store or your cabinet for 3 years before you had to use it. All of these considerations should come up as you sift through your possible solutions for the best one. Once you have an idea you think will work, it is time to give it wings. Test it out. Simulate the situation. Create a model. Draw up a plan. Design a storyboard, something you can test out. And test it out. You might have a solution that can't actually be tested, but you could survey people with the right expertise to tell you if they think it would work. Narayana had to try out his recipe and test his spoons. He had to consider all situations. Would the spoon melt in hot tea? In the simulation phase, you may have to return to sift out a different idea, or generate more ideas, or go back to exploring the problem further in order to generate a workable idea. Keep in mind that all your ideas won't work. Some have to fail. You'll learn from those failures and go on to generate a better solution. Look at this quote. Before Thomas Edison successfully invented the battery, he experienced a lot of failures. But he didn't see them as negative moments. He saw them as opportunities to find the right solution. Finally, when you arrive at the best possible solution, you need to advocate for it. Tell someone. You need to decide who your audience will be. With whom should you share your solution, other than your teachers, that is? Is it possible your idea could be put into action? If so, who might be able to help with that? What's the best way to share your idea? A video? A letter? A website? A model? Whatever it is, let your voice be heard. Narayana started a company where he sells different styles of edible utensils in various flavors. We really love this problem at IDE, which is why we use it to illustrate the design process. If you want to hear more about edible
So this was the idea we were talking about, that because of the plastic issues, people came up with certain ideas of having bamboo, and then from bamboo they thought of coming up with this edible cutlery, which is now being exposed in the industries nowadays. So this is how the whole design process works. And not even design process is part of design thinking, so that's how it works. And so if that's what I want to present, Nidhi, I think that's all for today. If you want, I can ask the students to do a small exercise based on this.
Ma'am, you can definitely tell them the exercise and we can take the work from them by tomorrow. You can give them a small activity.
So in that scenario, I think if all of you can pick up one good, interesting advertisement, it could be a photo, because that's the best way of right now finishing off and thinking back. Why is that? Has that been done? So you figure out any print media ad. It could be an ad on TV. It could be an ad on YouTube, Instagram, whichever you like. So pick up one ad, and then you create the whole model from it. That who is the user, what is the product, what was the problem for which this is a solution, and what is the solution. So you will be figuring out the whole phase out of it. Of course, there is no conceptualization being done here. This is a backward process of understanding thing, that it would be a very small model. So on a piece of paper you can just either share the link of that ad, or you can put the print there, and you can just design that this is the problem, this is the solution, and these are the key elements which have come into the picture. Why what this advertisement has been able to tell you about that product. So what all have you understood by that 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute ad has given you as as a client? What are they trying to say? Can you do that?
Yes, ma'am. And they will be able to do it and submit it to us.
Yeah.
And will it be convenient for you and if it is okay with you to share the presentation with them so that they can go through steps while modeling it? And if it is copyrighted by you, we are fine with it, ma'am.
Actually, I have taken these from the internet only. I have no issues. I can send the first slides, or maybe the last one slides. it's like an overlapping thing, I can do that. Not a problem. I'll share it with Nidhi in a
Yeah,
PDF format.
then we'll circulate that also. And taking the help of presentations, what they have studied, they'll be able to create small model of any advertisement that you said.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything? Anyone has any questions or something? I don't know. I'm seeing this black screen after such a long time. We are
Yeah.
now. So, uh, is this all? Anybody has any question you would like to ask? If this assignment doesn't seem fine to you, you can ask me anything. You can figure out something else as well. Okay. I think that's fine with them.
Yeah, I think that's fine with them, ma'am.
Oh,
And we are really thankful and grateful to you for sparing the time on weekend, and especially when your health is not fine.
no, no.
And we would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude for taking this session with our students and enlightening them about design thinking and various steps with the help of such good commentary slides as well as videos that you showed to them, and also the assignment work that you have given to them. On behalf of our center, ma'am, the Scientific Temper, Design Thinking, Data Analytics, and Artificial Intelligence, I would like to extend my vote of thanks to you for
Thank you so much.
sharing the insightful, meaningful session with us and our students. I would also like to extend my thanks to all the faculty members of the center who are here with us, Dr. Nidhi Gupta, who has organized the session with us, Dr. Anu Sharma. Of course, you are here with us, Dr. Gagan Swami, Dr. Nidhi Balyan, Dr. Roshan Khan, and Dr. Priyanka was also there with us. Very, very thank you, ma'am. And we hope to have you in our college someday very soon to have in person interaction with faculty as well as students.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I would just say that keep looking at things and keep solving. You just have something in your hand, even a mobile phone. I think, I don't know how many of you use all the aspects of a mobile phone. That's the best design, you know. You spend so much of money, like thousands of money on an iPhone. Then have you used all the whatever they have, the features they have? Has everybody used it? If not, why not? Think over it, because then that's a bad design. So keep thinking. I think that's the best way of learning how to make design proper.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Rather,
you so
the
much.
activity of scamper was very interesting. I used it in one of my trainings in psychology as well. And
Yeah.
I still remember that in that training workshop, a group of trainees designed a wallet by using scamper.
It's
And
a
it
very
was very
interesting, man.
interesting.
It's a very
Yeah.
interesting tool. You go out of the box completely, but that's
Yeah, it
something which you
was
have.
a workshop on creativity and innovation, and I designed a 6 hour workshop just on scamper.
Yeah, yeah. We do like storytelling. Scamper is something which we keep introducing because that's how only you can break the chain of thinking only straight. We then only that you can go out of the box. Maybe a toothbrush with a SMS coming in or something like that. Then only you start thinking very out of the box. So these are required.
Absolutely. I have one more memory to share with you.
Sure.
So I am in touch with NIFT Srinagar.
Uh-huh.
So the director of there, if you know him,
Javed,
Dr.
Javed.
Javed Wani.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
He knows me from last many years. I was associated with him when he was in Central University of Kashmir as a registrar, and then he joined NIFT
Yes, as
Srinagar.
a director. Okay.
And I delivered 2 sessions of fashion psychology to students. I designed syllabus for NIFT Srinagar students, and I taught them for 2 semesters also.
Oh, great.
It
Oh.
was in COVID time that they wanted to innovate something new because everything was online.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point of time, I figured out a lot, found out who all are teaching fashion psychology, integrated psychological principles with fashion world. I designed syllabus for them, took
Oh,
two
great.
sessions, I mean, 2 batches in 2 different semesters, and
Mm-hmm.
approximately 70 to 90 students in one batch joined me.
Huh,
And they created very beautiful advertisement campaigns using today you were talking about that design and advertisement, and I would share it with Nidhi, and I'll tell her to share those advertisement models with you also. The NIFT
definitely.
Srinagar students designed them.
Oh, wow. So we
Yeah.
actually in Delhi, we also have one subject, we call it as integrated design project, which is the end subject of every semester, the first year semesters. So
Yeah.
there they integrate all their things, and they come up with a very interesting idea. I think आपका उसी में आया होगा. I think
I
IDP.
do.
Yeah, IDP. So IDP is also a integrated design project wherein their design thinking skills, creative thinking skills, design fundamentals, everything is combined together, sketching, and then they come up with a solution. So of course, coming from students of a very not with a very much of background of design, but yes, they are like outstanding kind of some ideas comes up with the students with the solutions with the problem which are they're there in front of you, maybe a table, maybe a chair, maybe a brush, maybe anything. So it's an interesting process, and every student learns by their own processes. They, it's not everybody can not have the same process, so that's how it works. Yeah,
I
Nidhi.
agree.
Yeah, so I'm listening to your conversation. It's very interesting. And the toothbrush idea. So I remember it was 10 years back. We went to London, and from there, I bought one toothbrush for my son. So I was just
Mhm.
trying to make him independent, and I found this toothbrush which has this light sensors. So you switch on that light. So for 1 minute, so my child knew कि कितनी देर उसे brush करनी है. So he became independent कि कितनी देर करनी है, अदरवाइज ही यूज्ड टू कीप आस्किंग मी मम्मा और कितनी देर करना है. तो दैट्स आई थिंक दैट्स
That's
डिजाइन.
that's what design thinking is. Yes, it's like something you go beyond what is happening every day
Yeah,
and
and
modification of the design.
so that was the functional aspect, and the the body, the handle जो होता है ना, that was building of a, that was a design in the form of a building, and on
Hmm.
top of that there was a Spider-Man sitting on top of it. So that was very interesting for him as a kid. He could, he was connecting himself with the Spider-Man. मेरे हाथ में Spider-Man है.
वही तो
And
मैं
then
बोल
there
रही थी
was a
ना,
blue light.
मग्स, हमारे रोज के मग्स ही देख लो चाय पीने
I
के
know.
कैसे बदलते हैं. मतलब आफ्टर यू रीच, यू हैव अ पावर, यू हैव रीच्ड अ प्लेस, ऑल ऑफ द फैकल्टी who are here, or maybe students, when you reach to an age where you have a position in an office, you would not like to have a plastic mug or something like that. You would prefer to have a ceramic mug,
Ceramic. Yeah.
right? So your preference changes, mug remains the same, the need is the same, the problem is the same, but the solution keeps changing.
Keeps changing. Yes. Very interesting. And Vanna ma'am,
Absolutely.
ki to, whenever I listen to her, I get to know so much about fashion. She is from psychology, but she knows a lot of it. So psychology
Psychology,
and design.
empathizing can't happen without psychology. So Vanna ma'am, I think, is the great person to be part of it because she can make
Yeah.
people understand.
Yeah.
Psychology
I'm
is like,
learning from you. I'm learning from all of you, rather. And
we learn
honestly
from each
speaking, I
other.
learned from those students. Their
Of
creativity
course.
blew my mind too.
Of course, every
Yeah.
batch of our students give us new idea of how to go about it.
Yeah.
Earlier, when we were students, our teachers used to tell us sketch everything. आज की डेट में अगर मैं किसी बच्चे को बोलती हूँ sketch करके दिखाओ तो कहेगा मैम, वो अपनी iPad लेके आते हैं and they always have their pencils in hand. उनके notes भी उसी में चल रहे हैं, उनकी drawing, sketching सब उसमें चल रही है. So we have new apps. People don't want to use laptops anymore.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
keep changing. The design scenario keep changing. That's how it works.
Right.
Oh, interesting.
Thank you so much, Anu ma'am. We would
Thank
like
you.
you to take rest now
Yeah, sure.
and hope to see you soon. Thank you, all my faculty members who have joined. And thank you, dear students, for being with us.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you, Anu.
Have a
Okay.
great day. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you.